Hey guys, Brian Penamani here. Today we're going to talk about probably the most comprehensive movement pattern that you can be doing in your daily workouts. That's right, we're going to break down the squat technique when we get back. Alright guys, the squat's often been referred to as the king of all lifts, and that's because it incorporates almost every major muscle group and joint complex in the human body. Therefore, you got to have good mobility and good stability of all those joints, starting with the shoulders and upper thoracic region. If you've got any limitations in your upper thoracic region, you're going to have a limited ability to functionally squat or perform a good weighted squat. So a good activity for that, TV watcher's position. Just work on opening up your shoulder girdle, opening up that upper thoracic region. We spend most of our time in a flexed position these days, so you're gonna have some limitations in that thoracic mobility if you sit at a desk all day or you do a lot of reading or driving in a car. So make sure you get that upper thoracic mobility. Obviously, next and most important thing, you're gonna have to have core muscles. You're gonna have to have good back extension. So in order to be able to do that, you need to make sure you can get those hips out in front of your toes a little bit and arch back so you get a good, nice lumbar curve with that. Hip mobility is also critical in the functional and weighted squat. So if you can't move your hip girdle in a good hip opener position, that's going to potentially limit some of the ability for you to squat functionally. Obviously, the next joint segment is the knees. You need to have good knee range of motion, otherwise you're going to have some limits there. And probably one of the most overlooked aspects of the squat is going to be ankle mobility. If you cannot keep your heels on the ground when you're squatting, functionally, you have some limited ankle mobility or some calf tightness. I highly suggest stretching out your calves and working on your ankle mobility so that you can squat with your foot flat on the ground. If you look at powerlifters or bodybuilders or people who have been doing this a long time, some of them even do barefoot squats, which is a fantastic way to make sure you've got your foot rooted on the ground properly. So before you get into any weighted type of squat, use a dowel rod to make sure that your technique is good and that you have good functional mobility in all those joints. You can even hold the bar up here over your head if you want to try a functional squat that way, or you can just put the bar back here so you can see if you're locking that lumbar spine and getting good thoracic extension. So you just need to place that dowel rod across your lower back so it's resting on your rear deltoids and your scapular region, and then just do a deep squat down, and you can keep your toes pointing forward with an unweighted exercise. So we want to make sure you've got good functional mobility. You can do that deep squat before you even consider throwing some weight on the bar. So now moving on to the weighted squat. There's a ton of gimmicks out there with pads that go on the back. You've got different rubber pads, you've got some different things that conform to your traps. Get rid of all the gimmicks. Those just put a lot of stress and strain on your cervical spine. Not a good thing, especially if you're doing a lot of heavy weighted squats. I'm show you how to place the bar on the back so that you can do a good squat, reduce the strain on your neck, but also it helps lock your thoracic spine and your lumbar spine in so you can avoid injury a little bit. So when we're talking about getting underneath that weighted squat, you want that resting lower than here. Most people are putting that bar up here on their upper traps, placing a lot of stress on the spine. Drop it down, it'll rest on part of your scapula, and if you're bringing your elbows up, it's gonna rest on your rear deltoids a little bit. That's gonna help lock you into extension in the thoracic spine and your lumbar spine, which gives you more stability to perform that squat safely. Make sure your stance is a little bit wider to shoulder width and your toes start to point out. It's imperative your knees follow over your toes to get good form. Lock that lower back in, that chest. Squeezing. You're using your whole body. So you can see how the squat's a very comprehensive movement pattern. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you and can improve your squat technique right now. Remember, you've got to have joint mobility in order to have a good functional squat. So if any of those joint segments are stiff or limited, make sure you free up that mobility first through stretching exercises and some mobility movement patterns before you try to do that functional squat or even the weighted squat. Leave some comments below. I'd love to hear some feedback on this. We're going to be putting more videos out there on physical therapy and wellness, so make sure you subscribe to our channel. Like us below and follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well, because we're going to help you stay fit and healthy for the long haul.